Here we are, onto while loops. While loops are an easy way to repeat the execution of lines without having to reuse a line many times. For example, to print hello world 5 times in a row, we can use this while loop. Like an if statement, while inside of the parentheses besides while, you should specify a Boolean expression. If the expression is true, the code inside the curly braces is executed. However, after everything inside, we go back to the top of the while loop and check the expression again. If the expression continues to be true, the loop will be repeated. So here the counter starts at 1, and each time we're in the while loop, the counter increases by 1. And so this loop will execute 5 times from 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. After that, this statement will no longer be true, and so it will leave the while loop. You can see how this works out here, where hello world is printed out 5 times. You can also place if statements in while loops to do some interesting behavior. So right here, we have a counter that goes from 1 to 10. And if the counter is less than 5, we print out smaller than 5. If it's greater than or equal to 5, once it no longer satisfies this condition, it will print out greater than or equal to 5. We can see that here with 4 prints of smaller than 5 and then 6 of greater than or equal to 5. Here is an example of an infinite loop. If we take a look at this one, the counter starts at 100 and says while counter is greater than 0. Since we don't ever increment the value 100, it's just going to keep spinning inside this loop and print out spam multiple times. So if we want to make sure that the following piece of code only prints out spam 100 times, we can add another statement underneath this where we say counter equals counter minus 1. So it'll count all the way down from 100 to 0. And once it gets to 0, then we will no longer be into this loop. For the working together section here, we're going to take our code from the previous activity and expand it so that instead of the program finishing after the user inputs once, we'll allow the user to answer the time 10 questions before exiting. We have to be careful about infinite loops. So I put the code from the last activity into here. And this time we're going to add in a while loop at the beginning so we can answer the question 10 times. So I'm going to say while, and then I want to make sure we have 10. So I'm going to initialize a counter to equal to 1. And then I'm going to say while counter is less than or equal to 10. And then I'm going to put all of this code inside of here. And I want to tab all these over so that way we know what is inside of our while loop and what isn't. And then at the end of this whole thing, I'm going to say counter equals counter plus 1. So that way we'll start at 1 and we'll go all the way to 10. And then just so we know, I'm going to log out console.write line finished program, just so that way we can test that out. Let's run this here. So I'm just going to run it and I'm just going to press the letter A each time. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then the program's finished. Awesome.